Hello, and welcome to the Huntsman World Senior Games Active Life. My name is Jeff Harding, and I'm sitting in for Kyle Case, who's out of town right now. Joining me today in studio is my co-pilot, Derek Campbell. Derek, how are you?
Great, Jeff. How are you doing today?
Doing well, doing well. Derek, big things happening over at the games.
Mm-hmm.
Are you aware that we have 5,861 registered participants right now as of today?
Well, I kind of am aware of that. It's amazing.
Well, you are because you're over the registration. But if you weren't over the registration, would you be amazed?
Yeah, I am actually amazed. That's a lot of people every single day.
That really is. I mean, that boils down to, that's just about half of what, or a little over half of what we're expecting for the total for the year. And we're still several months out. So that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Now, just so you know, there are a couple of sports that are closed of the 30. We have pickleball that's closed, and we have bowling that's closed, a couple of sports that are getting closed, and we can't take any more softball or volleyball teams.
Right.
That's right. So Derek, do you like music?
I love music. It's the spice of life or something like that.
Have you ever wondered if there are health benefits to listening to music?
Well, I haven't wondered, but I feel like there are.
Well, according to the Huffington Post, there are at least 5 ways music improves our health.
Well, good. Let's find out what Huffington has to say here.
Okay, because that everybody knows that they're the authority on just about everything. All right. So, neuroscientists have discovered that listening to music heightens positive emotions through the reward centers of our brain, stimulating hits of dopamine that can make us feel good and even elated come through music. Listening to music also lights up other areas of the brain as they put those little diodes on your head as they're testing. In fact, almost no center of the brain is left untouched, suggesting that music has even more widespread effects for potential uses for music. So, the first area that music is helpful is music reduces stress and anxiety. Research has shown that listening to music, at least music with a slow tempo and low pitch, without lyrics or loud instrumentation, so no Led Zeppelin or Poison or anything like that, can calm people down, even during highly stressful or painful events. In one study involving surgery patients, the stress-reducing effects of music were more powerful than the effects of an orally administered anxiolytic. I said that wrong.
That's a lot of stuff.
Anxiolytic drug. Anti-anxiety drug.
Yeah.
I'll get it.
I listen to a lot of music in the office and at home and in the car. I think there's got to be something to that because, I get a little distracted and I don't know, for me, it's calming and helps me focus. So.
Yeah. The secondary is music decreases pain. Music has a unique ability to help with pain management. In a 2013 study, 60 people diagnosed with fibromyalgia, a disease characterized by severe musculoskeletal pain, were randomly assigned to listen to music once a day over a 4-week period in comparison to a control group that listened to no music at all. The group that listened to music experienced significant pain reduction. It's not clear why the music may reduce pain, though music's impact on dopamine released may play a role. Of course, stress and pain are also closely linked, so music's impact on stress reduction may also be partly explain the effects.
It makes me wonder too if there might be something about just breaking the concentration, of taking your mind off the pain,
changing the focus.
Yeah,
that makes sense too. The third is music may improve immune functions. Wilkes University researchers looked at how music affects levels of IgA, an important antibody for our immune system's first line of defense against disease. Undergraduate students had their salivatory IgA levels measured before and after 30 minutes of exposure to one of 4 conditions. The first was listening to a tone click. The second was a radio broadcast. The third was a tape of soothing music. And the fourth was silence. Those students exposed to the soothing music had a significantly greater increase in IgA than the other conditions, suggesting that exposure to music and not other sounds might improve innate immunity.
Interesting.
So there you go. And 4 is music may aid in memory. Music enjoyment elicits a dopamine, as we already talked about, release, and dopamine release has been tied to motivation, which in turn is implicated in learning and memory. In a study published last year, adult students studying Hungarian, of all things, were asked to speak or speak in a rhythmic fashion or sing phrases in the unfamiliar language. Afterwards, when asked to recall the foreign phrase, the singing group fares significantly better than the other two groups in recall accuracy.
Interesting.
So if you want to memorize something, learn it by singing it.
That's interesting. Have you ever tried reading your Bible with tone and cadence?
I haven't done that, no.
Yeah, maybe it's a good way to try it. I don't know. I do it every once in a while with my family. They think I'm an idiot, but
Well, the last one is music helps us exercise. How many of us listen to rock and roll or other upbeat music while working out? It turns out that research supports what we instinctively feel. Music helps us get more bang for our exercise buck. Researchers in the United Kingdom recruited 30 participants to listen to motivational synchronized music, non-motivational synchronized music, or no music at all while they walked on a treadmill until they reached the exhaustion level. Measurements showed that both the music conditions increased the length of time participants worked out, though motivational music increased it significantly more when compared to the other. The participants who listened to the motivational music also said they felt better during their workout than those of the other two conditions. So
that's interesting because there's a lot of races that will not allow you to listen to music as you're racing.
Well, that's true, but I think part of that is if they're open races and you're going along the roads, they don't want you to miss hearing cars or other things that might be a safety issue.
That's true.
Because I know we have an issue with that with our triathlon.
Okay.
We're concerned about them being able to hear road noise and for their safety. So it's not always about the ability to compete. It's sometimes about other factors.
Yeah.
Well, now that we know that music is good for the soul, we're going to talk to the music man. One of our great directors, Harold Curry, is with us in studio. Harold, how are you doing?
Pretty good. I'm about ready to go to sleep. So you talk about music. My wife is from Germany, and it's nonstop Johann Strauss. I ask her to change it, and she puts on an München Staatsson Hofbrauhaus,
So no wonder you're so relaxed all the time. You have no stress.
Yeah.
Well, Harold is our Shotgun Sports Director, and he's here to talk to us a little bit about that. So, Harold, how did you get into Shotgun Sports?
Well, many years ago, back in the 80s, late 70s, I got a shotgun with a friend, and I started shooting trap out at Laguna Hills. It would turn into a pretty competitive, got me going on that. And the group I was with, we did a challenge shoot every year with the LA Rams, and I got teamed with Brzezinski one year.
So were you shooting at the Rams or with the Rams?
No, with the Rams. Okay.
I thought maybe that's why they left Los Angeles back then, was because you're shooting at them.
Anyway, it was 1 round of trap, 1 round of skeet, and he and I won gold buckle that year. So then I kind of quit shooting because a lot of the gun clubs up there started closing. Mm-hmm. And in fact, the Laguna Hills Gun Club turned into a golf driving range. So
both hitting shots, but different kind.
Anyway, we when I retired and moved up here, I started shooting again down at Oasis and got into the ATA, and that was back in 2003. Uh-huh. And I got into ATA, and we started doing a lot of the tournaments, and I ended up being the veteran state champion 1 year and runner-up a year and handicap champion a year. And we got to shooting between Oasis and Cedar City, and we finally tried the Southern Utah Shooting Sports Park, which at the time, the shotgun range was under the auspices of the Lions Club.
Oh, wow.
And the Lions Club, the park kind of parted company, so they needed someone to take over and manage the park, of the shotgun range. So there was 5 of us that were selected to manage the range, and I happened to be one of the 5, and that was back in 2007. And it kind of grew from there. We started ATA shoots, and then I got with Huntsman people. We missed it the first year. Lee Scott and I went over and tried to get some games going, and we had missed the first year. But in 2009, we did our first Huntsman year, and we've been going strong ever since.
Right, it's grown quite quickly.
It has. We started off with 250 targets and 30 shooters, and we got the same story from everybody. We need more targets. So we went to 800, and now we shoot actually 850. And we shoot for 5 days, from Monday through Friday. And we're capping out at 130 shooters, but we kind of play it by ear because each one of the events can handle a different amount of people.
Right.
For instance, the sporting clays, I can put 200 people out there, but I can't do that with skeet.
Right. Now let's take a step back. Before I became involved with the games and shotgun sports became part of the games, my picture of shotgun sports was watching the old Lucy show when she went out and was competing in a trap. So that was not a real clear picture or not a very accurate picture of what the sport's about. Now, there's several disciplines. So why don't you take us through some of the disciplines and what is involved in each of the disciplines?
Okay, we can start with sporting clays. We have 2 sporting clay courses. There's 12 stations on each course. There's 2 to 3 target machines on each one of the stations. It's a variety of targets. You have rabbits that bounce across the ground. You have incoming targets, crossing targets. It's a replication of bird hunting.
Right.
We have 5-stand, which is basically the same as sporting clays, but it's on a controlled field. There's 5 shooting stations and 8 target machines, and each one of the stations has a different presentation of targets. So I like to tell people, and this is the truth, we have 5 stations, we have 8 machines, and we have 3 rattlesnakes. We caught 1.
So now there's 2 rattlesnakes, but everything else
now there's
stays the
2
same.
rattlesnakes out there.
Well, sporting clays is the funnest as far as variety and kind of getting a real life.
Sporting clays is the most popular. We have the 2 courses. We can actually set up 7 different courses, providing the machinery is available to us. Promatic, who has been very helpful with the state shoots, brings an extra 30 to 40 machines out, so we can set up a different course almost every day. Then we have skeet. We have 2 skeet fields. The skeet is 8 stations, and the targets are stationary. They all fly in the same place. We have a high house and a low house, and you shoot a variety of singles on high house, singles, low house, and you have a pair.
Just before you go on, high house means that they're shooting that the targets are flying from an elevated position, and the low house means they're coming from towards the ground.
You're right. The low house is about 3 feet off the ground. The high house is about 12 feet off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have 2 of those stations. And then we have trap. We have 4 trap fields. Singles trap being, it's pretty standard. Everybody wants to shoot singles. And they all shoot from the 16-yard line, which is 16 yards back from the trap house where the targets come out. They fly at 43 miles an hour, and they go out 55 yards. They oscillate side to side. Then you can move the microphones or the speakers. We have all automated release systems, voice activated. You can move the speakers back or the mics and shoot the handicap yardage, and that goes all the way back to 27 yards. We can set the machines up where it throws 2 targets at once.
Mm-hmm.
That's all shot from 16 yards. And then we have the one I like to do is what they call wobble trap.
Mm-hmm.
We crank the machine up to where the targets are flying at about 60 miles an hour. They go the high target is a 3 meter, which is almost like a springing teal, and then the low target is a 1 meter, and it's a worm burner. It just skims right across the ground, and if you're not very tall, you won't see that target. So for the Huntsman games, we have to modify that a little bit because we have a lot of ladies that shoot, and so we kind of elevated that low target a little bit so everybody can see it. And we give you 2 shots.
Well, and that's a good thing because short people are people too, and they deserve to have the same chance to shoot as tall people. Well, if you're just joining us, you're listening to the Active Life, the Huntsman World Senior Games Active Life on Fox News AM 1450.
That the wobble reminds me a little bit of the duck hunt off the old original Nintendo.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Did you ever watch your kids or grandkids play that? I know it dates me a little bit bringing that up. I'm
no.
young.
Well, that's new technology for the geezer and I.
I know, right? Atari's new technology for some of y'all.
By the way, that's Harold's nickname, the geezer. He's the head geezer.
The geezer meister.
So I've shot shotgun a few different times in my life. When I think the first time I shot, I was a young kid. I shot it once and my shoulder just ached for weeks, you know? That's how I felt. And I know you guys have made fun of me out there. I shot 50 rounds and my shoulder ached and I was bruised. And So, what do you tell everybody who, as an instructor and everything else you do, what do you tell people who come out feeling like that?
Well, when we get a group of people out, like we do a lot of corporate outings, and the first thing I'll find out is who's an experienced shooter and who isn't, and I'll separate them, and I'll take the inexperienced shooters or the first-time shooters aside. First thing I tell them to do is mount the gun like you're going to shoot it. Then I can get an idea how much they know, and then I start move this, move your foot over here, lift the gun up, get your head on the stock. And one of the problems with people is they like to lift their head off the stock and take a look at the target when it breaks. That's a no-no. Because what will happen is the stock will slap you in the cheek, and you will end up with a big sore.
A big old bruise on your face.
Really. So what I do to break that habit is I have them give me a $20 bill.
Ah.
I put the bill between their cheek and the stock. They shoot. Now, if the bill is still there, they get to keep it. If it falls on the ground, it belongs to me.
Strong motivation, very strong motivation.
Well, it's funny because on the contrast of that, I think once you get the hang of it, then it fixes it. I've been out there with one of my friends, Keith, and he shoots. And how many rounds? If you shoot all of our events at the games, it's what, 850 rounds?
850. We've added a 50 target sub gauge, which is a 28 gauge on the sporting clays, because we shoot it on Thursday. Since we only have one event, which is the singles, we have a lot of people who say, well, gee, I'd like to shoot some more. What can we do? So we've added the 50 to fill in that blank while they're waiting for the awards to be given out. So it's pretty good. It's up to 40 people now that are shooting it.
It really impresses me because, I get all achy after a few shots, and these athletes, seniors that we put the events on for, they're shooting 850 plus targets, and they're still saying, bring it on, give me more.
Well, that 850 targets is spread out over 5 days. So if you go to a trap tournament, you'll probably shoot 300 to 400 targets in one day.
Wow.
And it's mostly, in fact, all of it is based on how you stand and how you hold the shotgun. And that's something that we really stress with new people coming out there. We get them to where they stand properly. Their body takes the recoil, not their shoulder. I have one of my Canadian shooters. His brother-in-law lives down here. Bought a shotgun, didn't know anything about it. They brought it out, had me look at it. I showed him how to clean it, take it apart, put it all back together. And I said, have you ever fired it? And he said, well, I fired it about 4 or 5 times just the other day to get the feel of it. And then he pulled his shirt up, and he was black and blue from his elbow to his shoulder. And I said, well, we're going to change all of that.
He got the feel of it, didn't he?
Yeah, we're going to change all of that. And we did. And he was shooting, and he shot shot 100 rounds and had no effect. Said he felt fine. Did not bother him whatsoever. So the key to it is proper stance when you're shooting. It's just like any sport, baseball or what have you. If you stand properly and execute the moves correctly, you'll do fine.
Now, Harold, I would like to maybe clarify a little bit for our listening audience, because as I said, not everybody is as versed as you are in shotgun sports. So when you talk about gauge, what does that mean? Okay, the gauge is the diameter of the bore. Now you have a 28 gauge, which is a very small one. We have 410, which is actually a caliber, which is a very, very small one, about the size of your little finger. Then it moves into 28 gauge, is a little bit bigger. Then you can move into 16 gauge, which is not real popular, but people do have them. Then you move into 20 gauge, which is very popular, and they start a lot of kids off on 20 gauge. And then you have a 12 gauge, which is your most common shotgun out there. Then it goes into 8 gauge, 10 gauge, which are not legal for competition shooting. Mm-hmm. I get a lot of kids out there with 20 gauge and say, well, why don't you try a 12 gauge? Oh, no. That's a cannon. That thing is,
It feels that way.
Yeah, they think it is. And then I said, well, just try it. I give them mine. I say, just try one shot. And it don't kick as much as a 12 gauge. The 20 kicks more. They try it, and it's like, wow, that doesn't kick that bad at all. Next time I see them, they got a 12 gauge. So, my daughter has been shooting my 12 gauge since she was 9 years old.
Wow, pretty young.
Yeah, and it's how you stand and how you hold it.
Now, also tell us, what about the size of the pellet? How does that relate to the size of the gauge?
Okay, the size of the pellet has nothing to do with the gauge. That's the diameter of the BB that's inside the shot.
Right.
Now, we limit the size to 7.5s because of the velocity, and we have to maintain a 900-foot safety fall zone. So you get into bigger shot, and then it carries too far, and it'll interfere with the other shooters. So we'll get people come out, and they'll have 6s and 4s and what have you. We had one lady come down from Cedar, and she come out the line, and I checked her ammunition. I said, "You can't use these. These are 6s. We need smaller." She said, "Well, I got smaller ones in the truck." So she took off, came back a few minutes later with a box of 2s.
So it's inverse. It's the lower the number, the bigger the pellet.
Exactly.
Again, letting the folks out there understand.
Yeah, eight is the most common. 7.5 is to use for longer distance shots. For skeet, a lot of them use number 9s. So,
okay. Cool.
It's it's a matter of preference. What do you want to use?
Right.
So tell us about what it takes to be safe at the games, be safe out there to Purgatory Clays, because that's a big concern with people. It's a shooting sport.
It is, and I'm a chief range safety officer. I train the other officers. I give short-term instructions for temporary people that are out there, but you have 3 key things. One is keep your muzzle safe, always pointed in the safe direction. You don't load your firearm till you're on station, and you don't put your finger on the trigger till it's your turn to shoot. That's smart. Another thing that we stress, keep the actions open at all times. And how you carry your shotgun when you move from one place to another, okay, that determines how you point that muzzle. So you don't throw it over your shoulder. You either point it at the ground, break it open, have it on the ground, close it, put it in a rack or a cart. So we're out there quite often. I have orange lights that go on my truck, and I do a patrol around and just kind of keep an eye on people, make sure that they're – because people forget.
Yeah.
They get involved and they get carried away with the situation and everything, and they'll forget. And they won't unload their gun when they come off a station.
Yeah, that can be a little scary.
So we have people out there. The scorekeepers are all trained to keep an eye on people and watch for any infractions.
That's good.
Well, Harold, we're running out of time. It's amazing how fast it goes, isn't it?
Geez, I'm just getting started.
I know. So just quickly, what would you say to somebody that's sitting on the fence about trying a sport or even looking at shotgun sports? If they're sitting on the couch, they're sitting on the couch listening to this radio show, what would you tell them quickly just tell us what you tell them.
Well, for somebody that's just starting out, I say, hey, first of all, find a gun that you like. Okay, then bring it out to the range. Ask us to teach you how to use it. We will show you the proper method for handling it, cleaning it, how to take it apart, all the little key factors in there. Talk to somebody that's an expert on it. Come see me. I'm an instructor. Come see one of the other instructors out there. Let them show you the proper way to do it. Talk to other shooters. Find out what they say. Not just Joe Blow that's, one of the good old boys out shooting beer bottles at the but somebody at a professional range like we have.
Right.
So we've got 5, 6 different venues out there at the park. Okay. Every one of them will be glad to help you make a decision as to what, whether you want to go cowboy action shooting, bench rest, shotgun,
archery,
tactical, archery, muzzleloader. They're all available. So.
Well, I can speak from experience as somebody who was a little hesitant to put the cannon up against my shoulder, that coming out there and listening to you guys has really eased my concerns, and I actually appreciate going out there. So,
well, and Harold, we want to thank you for visiting with us today, and we want to thank everybody for listening. Remember to join us each and every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. for the Huntsman World Senior Games Active Life on Fox News 1450 AM. You can also listen to this show or many of our others on www.seniorgames.net. As mentioned at the top of the show, registration is now open and going strong. If you'd like to register, go to www.seniorgames.net and click on register. We would love to hear from you. If you would like to join us for the 30th anniversary of the games, we'd love to have you come out. So if you have a comment, send it to activelife@seniorgames.net. The quote for today is, "The difference between the impossible and the possible lies in the person's determination," and that's from Tommy Lasorda. Until next time, stay active.
Goodbye, folks.